sidekick, Dobby, and it has been almost a year since I last did a video, last June. It is now end of May, so yes, it has been almost a year. I have been reading, probably not as much as I should. I've also been writing, but I've just been lazy. But what possibly could have gotten me to do another video other than the new Hunger Games book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. So, if you watched my video from about a year ago when they announced that this was coming out, I was freaking out. I had so many ideas. All we knew about it at the time was it was 64 years before the first book, which meant it was about the 10th games. Now, I learned some more since then. I'm gonna put this down. I learned some more since then, and if I'm being completely honest, I was very, very nervous. In fact, the word I kept using was wary walking into this book, because all we knew about it was it followed Snow. Not my favorite character from the Hunger Games, not my least favorite character from the Hunger Games, but definitely not my favorite character from the Hunger Games. So all we knew was it followed Snow, and he was a mentor in the games, and from the sneak peek that we saw, it seemed like he was a do-gooder, and he really wanted to help District 12 win out of the goodness of his heart. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like the Snow that I know, and I was trying to wrap my head around how that description could possibly turn into the Snow that I know. Now, I am in the spoiler-free section right now. I'm not going to be giving anything substantial away about the plot of the book or the character arc until I get into my spoiler section. All I will say in this section is from the very beginning, you do see the potential for this character to become the President Snow that we know and hate from the Hunger Games trilogy. You see the potential there. He has a long way to go in 64 years, but you can see it coming. I had forgotten how brilliant Suzanne Collins was with her chapter endings, and how she'll like throw something at you to make you keep reading and turning the page. I shouldn't have forgotten. There's a reason that I read these first 3 books in a night each, and I was a really, really slow reader. I'm still a really, really slow reader, but I was a really, really slow reader then. Each book took me 13 hours to read. So Hunger Games and Catching Fire I read literally from 6 p.m. when I got home from work to 7 a.m. And then I slept because it was the summer and I didn't have to work until like 2 in the afternoon. So that was nice. But yeah, so I read through the night, 3 nights in a row. When I was reading Mockingjay, I didn't get home until 10. I stopped at 7 a.m. because I literally got sick from staying up 3 nights in a row reading, and I had to force myself to go to bed and then wake up and finish the last 100 pages. But yeah, that's how I read the first 3. I remember my friend gave it to me in like August and was like, read this by October. 3 days later, I'm like, I'm done. Anyway, so I shouldn't have forgotten that. I did. Lo and behold, crazy chapter endings. I like the new characters. There were definite, obvious, some more than others, connections between, a lot of really obvious ones, between this book and the original trilogy. And I enjoyed seeing a lot of those. I enjoyed making some theories and chatting with my friends again about a world that I have not been able to talk anything new about in almost a decade. So that was definitely a lot of fun. Overall thoughts, okay, I finished it like 3 days ago now. I'm still kind of processing my thoughts. I'm thinking I'm gonna give it around 4 stars because I don't know. Like, it was a really good story. It's not the type of story I would normally read. I don't like villain stories. I tend to drift away from villain stories. This one was crafted very well. I felt like it did really fit in the world and everything was canon. There was nothing that pulled me out and said, no, that's ridiculous, that couldn't have possibly been the way it went. No, it was canon, it was good, it followed through with everything that we already know about the world. it just wasn't the type of story I enjoy, especially in our current political climate. It was just like too much. Like, I was emotionally drained at the end of it, and not in a way I typically enjoy. Yeah, it was a lot. I did not particularly enjoy being inside Snow's head, but I'll get more into that in the spoiler section. So, I'm going to give my official spoiler warning. If you have not yet finished The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, go away. There will be plenty of spoilers. If you have, stick around and I will talk to you in just a moment. Okay guys, I'm gonna follow my notes because otherwise I'm just gonna be a mess of insanity. First, I wanna go back to what I was saying about the chapter endings. 3 chapters in a row in the middle of the book, not even at the end. The end of the book, you know, is always going to be crazy. Middle of this book, we have a chapter where a tribute slits her mentor's throat. That is how a chapter ended. And then she pulled out the knife and she slit her throat. That was one chapter. The next chapter then ends like, yeah, no, it's fine. Nobody's gonna know that we're lying. And then the snakes attacked her. And then the chapter after that ended, and then the bombs exploded. What the heck? How is that a thing? Oh my goodness. It keeps you reading though. It keeps you reading. I need to change some of my chapter endings to be more like this. I need some more slitting throats and bombs exploding and snake attacks in my chapter endings. I write contemporary, that's not gonna happen. Anyway, the chapter endings were absolutely insane. You already knew that. Okay, back to the whole idea of Snow. So as I said, you could definitely see that he had potential to become the President Snow that we all hate. Because even when he was doing some good things, and he did a lot of things that were positive changes. He caused a lot of change in a good direction in one sense, at least. He did cause a lot of things that helped the tributes. He got them food, he got them water, he got them help in the actual games. In doing so, he also ensured the longevity of the games, and therefore this continual torture. I forgot my lighting. I'm nice and pretty now. Yeah, so he ensured the longevity of the games, and that part's not so good. And also everything that he did was also really to help himself. So yes, he got them food because it would make him look good. And yeah, he gave the idea of them including food in the games because he wanted his tribute to win. Because again, it would make him look good. Plus, he just wanted to be a part of the forming of it. Because again, it would make him look good. Snow lands on top. Snow always lands on top. I'll come back to that later. Characters. I already talked about Snow. The other thing that was interesting about Snow, though, is that I was simultaneously rooting for him and absolutely terrified of everything he was doing at the same time. Because again, every choice he was making seemed logical and beneficial at that moment, and maybe even the better of options, kind of, sort of, at the point that he had to make the choices. But you could still see how it was going to take him down this path of just cruelty and terrible, terrible things. Even just the simple act of when they were in the monkey cage and Lucy Gray was like, own it. I was like, hell yeah, own it, except now you're gonna learn to treat all of this like entertainment, and that's a problem. So Lucy Gray kind of helped him with the whole idea of turning the Hunger Games into like actual entertainment. Lucy Gray. Interesting thing about Lucy Gray is she was kind of like a combination of Katniss and Prim, which I'll get more into later as well. But she had the natural talents of Katniss with her singing and strategy and guys seeming to like her for whatever reason without really trying. Although she seemed to try a little bit more than Katniss, who was like very much trying to not have guys like her. But then there was also Prim's side where people just liked her. Like, not even in a romantic way. She got along with people. She made friends. She got really close to people. She let people get close to her. I found it so interesting that she wasn't even from District 12. I had never even considered the idea that people used to be able to move around Panem whenever they felt like it. It never even crossed my mind that that was ever a possibility, since it was Panem and districts. And then she just got trapped in District 12, and they're like, all right, we're post-war now, you're never leaving here. It's crazy. The other thing is, I kept waiting for Lucy Gray to do something absolutely terrible to Snow, to give him a reason. Like, even though I didn't want to like him, I wanted him to have some sort of legitimate reason for hating District 12 so much, although I also didn't. I was fighting with myself. I'm like, I want him to have a reason, but I don't want him to have an excuse. And I want him to be successful in this one area, but I'm terrified of the path he's going to take. It was so strange reading this. It was such a strange journey. Anyway, I'm going to move on to, I have no idea how to pronounce Sojournus's name. I don't know, but that character. The poor, not poor, he's actually very, very wealthy, but the guy from District 2 who is trying to survive in the capital, and he just can't do it. You see from so early on that that boy just was not going to make it through this book. He was too pure-hearted, he wanted to help too much, he was too outspoken, and he was just laying his heart on the line to what will eventually become President Snow. Even if he survived this book, he wasn't going to survive much after it, with Snow knowing all of his deepest, darkest secrets. I adore that character. Okay, this is going to sound really funny if you know me at all, because he kind of reminded me of a soft-hearted version of Gale. And the reason that's hilarious to me, and anybody that knows me, is because I'm known for my extreme hatred of Gale. But the couple things that are positive about Gale, at least at the very beginning of the first book, are what I see in this character. He just wants to do the right thing, no matter what that means. He wants to help the rebels because he truly believes in his heart that that's what the right thing is. The difference between him and Gale is Gale gets to the point where he very much does not care who is hurt in the process. Like, obviously he didn't want Prim to get hurt in the process, but in terms of the other side, he doesn't care. Whereas Sojournus, or however the hell you pronounce his name, he does care, he just doesn't know how to think through his choices. So like, he's talking about giving the guns, and then when Snow's like, okay, but like, that means people are gonna be using guns, and he's just like, oh. He's trying to do what's right, but he doesn't understand how to, and I felt so bad for him throughout this whole thing, and he's so impulsive. He's trying to do the right thing, he just doesn't know how, and he doesn't go about it the right way, and he confides in Snow, of all people, who's the wrong person to confide in, as he unfortunately learns. Well, I don't think he actually ever does learn that, because I don't think he ever realizes that it's Snow that turned him in. Okay, Tigress. Now, we know Tigress from Mockingjay as the former designer who hides the rebels in her shop in the capital. She has changed her face to look pretty much completely like a cat. And Katniss tells her that she plans to kill Snow, and Tigress seems happy about this. I'm just not sure how that matches up with the Tigress in this book. And I know, again, a lot of things happen in 64 years. But even at the end of the book, she still seemed to care about Snow, and he still seemed to care about her. I'm just wondering at what point they start to dislike each other. My guess is that once he becomes president and she kind of starts to lose herself in her surgeries and stuff, he gets to the point where he's like, I can't protect you anymore, like, you're out, and she really does not appreciate that. and it's almost more of a personal thing against him at that point, which actually makes me like her a lot less if that's the case. I didn't necessarily get a feeling for the district's feeling from her in this book. Like, she's not as evil as her cousin, but I don't think she, like, hates Snow at the end because she agrees with Katniss. I think it's more just like, he's my cousin and he eventually turned against me after like 50 years, so I don't like him anymore. Dr. Gall. Dr. Gall might be the most terrifying character to ever exist. I worked it down with the Capitol, the website, and whenever we got into like President Snow versus Coin, who's the worst villain, meaning like the worst human, we always tended to go on the Coin side. I guess because like she knew it was wrong and did it anyway, whereas Snow seemed to actually have some sort of feeling that he was doing the right thing, which you can see in this book. Gall is like insane. Like, she's literally insane, but then she's also a genius, and then she uses her genius to manipulate Snow into becoming the ultimate villain that he is for the next 65 years. So yeah, she's awful. She's absolutely awful. Alright, I'm getting into the plot and setting now. So as I said, Snow gave some more ideas, and he actually made the games a little bit more humane than they originally were, which is crazy to say because reading the trilogy, you don't think it could get much worse than these games, and yet it does, when they're like literally starving them the whole time, and they're literally just in one room until they kill each other. Like, at least in the games, in the trilogy, there's food and water. They have like a chance. I guess it's more of like the hope aspect there. But again, it's also making it more entertaining. It's awful. Like, every positive comes with so much negative too. It's terrible. In this one, a third of the tributes were dead before the games even started. A third. Before the game started. Do you remember reading the second one and being like, oh my gosh, it's crazy, it's been a day, and a third of the tributes are already dead? Yeah, this didn't even last a day. The games hadn't started yet, and a third of them were dead. One thing that was interesting is the games in this one were more, I guess the word would be spotty than we're used to, because like, there was nothing happening for a really long time, and then all of a sudden it was like, boom, 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 those chapter endings, man. But even within a chapter, it was like, this person's dead, now this person's dead, oh, you're dead now too. After like nothing for a couple days, I think. But once I thought about it, I'm like, actually, I feel like the other games might have been like that too if we were watching it as a viewer, because this is the first time we were watching it as a viewer, except for like, you know, the one chapter where Snow was in the games with them, surprise! This is the first time we're watching as a viewer versus being in Katniss's head and being a part of the games, and because even when she wasn't actively like being attacked by someone or something, she still needs to be navigating the woods, and she's talking with Rue, and she's doing this, and she's doing that, and there's always something going on. But the viewers probably didn't see all of that and didn't care about all of that, so it's actually probably similar in some ways. As I said earlier, I thought that I kept waiting for Lucy Gray to do something terrible. How I thought this book was going to go is he was going to put in all this effort to help Lucy Gray and fall in love with her in the process, and then she was going to win the games and come out and they were going to see each other, and then she was going to pull a Katniss, basically. I was just pretending to care about you, but I didn't buy. And that's what would make him hate District 12 so much, especially when he saw a tribute from District 12 doing the same thing to this poor boy from her district. But yeah, no, that's not what happened. Lucy Gray, like, actually cared about him and trusted him and was legitimately happy to see him and thinking that he was so different from everybody else at the Capitol. He was different from everybody else at the Capitol because he was worse, or at least had the potential to be worse. And the means and the reason. Yeah, I kept expecting Lucy Gray to be awful, and she wasn't. She was just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I adore her character. And I'll get more into the ending and how that whole thing went in a moment. Again, because I thought it was going to end with the end of the games, the moment, like, when it ends, and he's just like, 12 hours later, I was the next peacekeeper on my way to District 12. I'm like, what? What did you say? I'm like, oh my god, he's going to 12 to see her. Is that where he's gonna find out that she doesn't care? And then she saw him, and she did care. I did not understand where the book was gonna go from there. And then Sojourner showed up, and everything hurt from that point forward. Just everything. Let's talk about this ending. I'm gonna skip the part in the woods right now because that part goes more into like the theory section of my discussion topics. So I'm gonna skip to the end of the book when he goes and visits the dean, just doing his thing, taking the morphling, and then you find out Snow just poisoned him. The first he's poisoned of many, many, many more. That was a brilliant way to end the book, because that was, I mean, he still has a far way to go to come from this Snow to the one that we know in the series, but that was a nice first step to get there, because we know he never stops poisoning people for the rest of his life. And himself, I am wondering when that started. I kept expecting him to, like, accidentally ingest some of the rat poison, and be like, oh, I had just a little, and I'm okay. And then kind of get the idea of, if my body gets used to it, maybe I can have this all the time and never be hurt. But we didn't actually see that part. Speaking of that connection, let's talk about the other connections to the trilogy. I already mentioned the fact that Lucy Gray seemed to have a lot in common with Katniss and Prim, but mostly Katniss. So there's the singing, there's the songs that they were singing, the Deep in the Meadow, which Katniss sings to Rue when she's dying, and Lucy Gray sings to Maude Ivory when she's falling asleep. Adorable. There's the hanging tree. I will say, I figured out pretty early, like when we went and saw a tree, the moment he called out to run, I was just like, oh my god, this is the hanging tree. This right here is the story of the hanging tree, and Lucy Gray is about to write this song, and Katniss knows it. Oh my god, this is absolutely insane. They say he murdered 3 in the cave as a rebel, and then Lil was the lover that he called out to. And, oh my god. Anyway, so yeah, there's that connection. And then there's the fact that Lucy Gray just like hangs out in the meadow, Katniss's meadow. And they go to the lake that Katniss's dad brought her to. What is all of this? Oh, and not to mention the Katniss plants, where they're like, yeah, some people call it like water onions or something, but I like to call it Katniss. Are you my mother? But really, I'll get back to that in a moment. Oh, and then even just milking a goat. Like, even had to bring that in. The only thing missing was the archery. Where's the archery? Who learned how to be an archer? Now I do want to talk about that little ending part in the woods, because I have a lot of questions about that. In fact, I'm going to hold my phone because I don't want to miss any of these questions. Okay, so we know that Snow clearly did not stand a chance living in the woods, because he was in there for a couple hours and absolutely losing his mind. So we don't know how much of what happened in those woods was real. Okay, I'm pretty sure everything up to finding the guns in the cabin was real. Like, there were no signs there that anybody was hallucinating or losing their mind or anything up to that point. When Lucy Gray leaves, and he's standing there and he's just running through all of the stuff in his head, like, I don't have to leave anymore, this is great, but what would Lucy Gray say? She'll understand, everything will be fine. Where is she? She's been gone a really long time. Do you think she figured it out? Oh my gosh, maybe I should bring my gun and go out and find her. That's as much as I know happened. He goes out and he can't find her. I don't know if she had figured out the truth about his part in his, basically, at that point, best friend / almost brother's death and ran away immediately. That's very possible. She was very bright and smart. She could have very easily figured it out from their conversation earlier and just ran for it. She also could have actually been trying to get the Katniss plants and taken a while, because it's raining and slippery and it's hard to see and all of that. And then she could have been like on her way back and seen him come out with a gun and then ran for it. Those are two options at that point. Whether she left the scarf, she probably did, because there was that line about her always knowing where the snakes are. I don't think she was trying to kill him. I think she was probably trying to slow him down if he was looking for her. I definitely don't think that she came and attacked him in the woods after that part, though. I think that part was completely his imagination and he was firing at absolutely nothing, or animals or birds or something. I also don't think that she was singing the hanging tree and torturing him. I think that was him just hating the Mockingjays so much and having it mix in his head any of their sounds and turning it into that, because he was going absolutely insane. And he was already on this path of self-destruction at that point. At least love destruction at that point. So I don't think he killed Lucy Gray. I don't think she necessarily survived, but I don't think he killed her. It would be awesome if it turns out that she like got to 13 and was part of the whole rebel thing moving forward. What if she was really Coin? I don't think so. That would be interesting though. A little bit difference in their wardrobe choices. So that's my stuff about Lucy Gray. I'm wondering if she survived. I'm wondering if she really attacked him. I don't think so. Time for some other theories. My friends and I have decided Katniss has to be a descendant of Maude Ivory. It's just not even really a question. There are too many similarities. They go to the same places, they know the same things, they know the same songs. One of my friends even found a mention in the first book about Katniss being able to remember any song after just hearing it once or twice, which is something that they say specifically about Maude Ivory as well. So like they're just definitely descendant. I don't know if it's like a grandparent situation or great-grandparent situation or what, but definitely related to Katniss's dad, like 100%. Also, I'm pretty sure now that a big part of the amount of hatred that Snow had for Katniss was her reminding him of Lucy Gray, the only love he ever had. Yeah, so how much of it was that, and not so much about Katniss at all, but about her forcing him to remember some of the biggest mistakes he ever had and the weakness that he had at that point and the choices that he made back then. It also makes me wonder two things. Number one, about like all of the creepiness of him giving her roses. If that was actually him being like, I used to give my Lucy Gray roses. I'm gonna give these to her as if she's my Lucy Gray. And it, from his point of view, it actually wasn't creepy at all. But also that also could be creepy because like he tried to kill her and now he's like, here's a rose. Like the Capitol tried to kill you and gave you gifts. I tried to kill you and here's my gift. But then also it makes me wonder if somebody figured out Katniss's relation to Lucy Gray and how that would affect Snow and planted her in the games earlier than we thought. Like maybe Prim's name being chosen and then Katniss volunteering was all a plant and it wasn't just the second one that was a plant. I don't know. Like, again, if Lucy Gray made it to District 13, maybe that whole thing, oh my god, like, it would have, that would be insane. I think that's a little too far. I think that's, like, not real versus real. It would be interesting. That is it. I will talk to you next time. Maybe, assuming there is a next time. I did take some videos over the past year that I want to like, kind of cut together into one long, like, what we missed over the past year video. Look for that. Anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at ReaderGonnaRead, just like my YouTube channel, and subscribe by clicking down below or up there, and I will talk to you next time, maybe. Bye! Hey! Ellie and Dobby here. Like the video? Come subscribe. Do it. Right now. Click it.